This tutorial will help you understand GDP, gross domestic product, and how it is calculated. The basic formula for calculating GDP is Y equals C plus I plus E plus G. In this formula, Y equals GDP, C equals consumer spending, I equals investment made by industry, E equals exports over imports, and G equals government spending. Okay. In this example here, we have consumer spending at 105 billion, government spending at 29 billion, business spending at 65 billion, and exports minus imports at 30 billion. So we would take this example and say GDP equals consumer spending C 105 billion plus I, which is investment made by industry, also known as business spending, 65 billion, plus E, which is excess of exports over imports that was already given to us at 30 billion, plus government spending, which was 29 billion. So you need to take your calculator and add together all of these things, 105 plus 65 plus 30 plus 29. In this case, you would get $229 billion as our GDP for the current year. Okay, some things that you need to know. Investment made by industry. This quantity is a little bit different in this formula because when you think of investment, you might think of something that you're investing like a mutual fund, like in the case of an individual. It doesn't mean buying stocks or bonds or putting money into a savings account. Okay? When we're calculating GDP, investment means the purchases made by industry in new productive facilities, or the process of buying new capital and putting it to use. So this includes like buying a new truck or building a new factory or purchasing new software. This shows the factory reproducing itself by buying new goods and services that will produce more goods and services. So for example, if we're buying in the industry of buying t-shirts and selling t-shirts, we have to keep buying more shirts so that we can print on them and resell goods and services, t-shirts. Okay, there is this flow between those two things, which is why we call it investment made by industry and not just business spending. Okay, there is another thing that I want you to know, and this formula can look like this, okay, or this formula can also look like this. And I'm going to type it first and see if you can understand why it sometimes looks like this. Okay, if you look at this, these things are still the same. However, we're going to add in X equals, can you guess? Exports. And M equals imports. So because E in this equation equals the excess of exports minus imports, sometimes we just see the formula look like this, where GDP equals consumer spending plus investments made by industry plus exports minus imports plus government spending. Okay, so sometimes your formula will look like this, and I forgot addition sign there. Okay, but this is another way to look at this formula. Okay, and it might just be easier for you to remember the formula if you think about it this way. Okay. This final component, G, government spending, the government buys goods and services with your tax money. So this G right here is where they get that spending. These purchases are a measure of those goods and services produced. Sometimes people think that the money paid in taxes and spent by the government is lost, and so it subtracts from GDP, but actually the taxes we pay in may be those are spent and we calculate that into GDP. It doesn't really matter if they're spent, if you think they're being spent efficiently or insufficiently. Any money spent by your government, even though we pay into taxes, is known as government spending, and we have to put that into GDP. The next thing I'm going to do is give you another example of how a problem might be set up. Okay, so here was kind of how the first one was. It just kind of gave you consumer spending, government spending, business spending, exports minus imports. Okay. Example 2 says Island X is a small island nation. Its population total is 400 and it has 100 wage earners who earn an average of $50 per year. Each wage earner spends a total of $40 per year buying goods and services, of which $3 goes to buying imported goods. The island exports a total of $800 worth of goods. The government tax rate is 10%, and all government money is spent on building infrastructure and supporting schools. There is only one industry, uranium mining, on the island, and it employs every wage earner. The industry spends $600 per year on new mining equipment. What is the GDP? So the first thing you need to do is copy down this formula, okay, and so that you can see kind of what we need to look for, okay. I'm just going to read through this again slowly. Okay, it says its population total is 400. Okay, so I'm going to try and write down the things here that I think that I might need to know. Okay, I'm going to say total population 400. It has 100 wage earners. So I know that my workforce is made up of 100 people. Okay, those people make on average $50 per year. Okay, so if I take my 100 workers times my $50 per year, I know that I will have $5,000. Okay, it says each wage earner spends a total of $40 per year buying goods and services. So my consumer spending would be 100 wage earners, 100 people, times $40 that they spend per year. So my consumer spending would be $4,000. Okay. It says $3 of that goes to buying imported goods. So my imports, I would need to take $3 times 100, and I would know that I have $300 worth of imports. Okay. The island exports a total of $800. Okay, let's go on. It says the government tax rate is 10%. Okay, so I know that 10% of what my people are making is going to go into government spending. So if I take my 5,000 and times that times 10%, my government spending is $500. And it says the industry spends $600 per year on new mining equipment, which would be the I, or investments made by industry. Now that I have all of my things written out, I can go in here and do GDP equals, okay, consumer spending would be 4,000 plus investments made by industry, 600, plus exports, minus imports, plus government spending. When I calculate that out, when I take 4,000 plus 600 plus 800 minus 300, which is 500, plus another 500, my GDP is 5,600. This is all you need to know for your GDP practice directions. You can now go find your GDP practice worksheets and begin those.